All right, everybody. Ready for the next VIP lunch. You're a bunch of VIPs. Give yourself a round of applause. A very important people. Well, we have a good 30 minutes here, 25, 30 minutes, and we're going to get into it. And we've collected some questions for Brian and for Jim. And so we're going to dive right into them and try to give you some of the great stuff that they have deep down inside of them. So it's always a lot of fun to be able to ask questions of people who are such deep wells of information and knowledge, and not just information and knowledge, but wisdom as well. So we're going to dive right in. We're going to start with kind of a fun one to help you get to know them a little bit better. What do you guys do for fun or free time? If you have any free time, what do you do for fun? What do you like to do?
Brian has fun.
Brian has fun.
Well, my life has been pretty much the same forever. I have a wonderful family. I have four children and a wonderful wife, and she is my best friend. So there's no person whose company I enjoy more than hers. I do physical exercise. Clinton Swain and I climb mountains together, 8 and 10 hours at a time, several weeks to recover for me. And I'm a reader. I love to read. I've been a reader. It's called a bibliophile, and that's why I admire Jim so much and Dennis, is because they're bibliophiles as well. Reading is just such a great pleasure. Well, you almost want to take a lifetime off and just read all the stuff we've got put aside. So those are the things. I spend time with my family, and I exercise, keep fit because I want to live forever, and I read as much as I can. I read about 2 to 3 hours a day and have for about 40 years.
So follow-up question, what was your best climb so far? What one did you really enjoy and love the most?
My best climb is Pico de Orizaba in Mexico, which is an 18,700-foot volcano that I trained for and climbed up and down in one day. It's a 3 and 4 and 5 day hike with guides and everything else. I did it in one day from bottom to top, and I've climbed it 4 times. So that was my most enjoyable.
Wow. What do you do with all your free time?
I've climbed Camelback Mountain in Phoenix. It's a nice time. And if you tell someone, hey, I've been on the top of Camelback Mountain, you have to have pictures to prove it, right? Because nobody will believe you unless you got the pictures. So
Plant a flag up there.
But for a long, long time, I've got a little motor home with my trail bike, dirt bike on the back, and I head for Northern California, Clear Lake, ride the Jeep trails up on top. One of my great recreations, where there's no stoplights, no traffic lights, and where the air is clear and where you can do some thinking. Part of it's to get away, but I'm now going to put a fax machine in my motorhome so I can, update my technology. Part of my mode for the future is to be in touch and out of reach. I want him to say, for the next, little while, you can contact him, but you can't find him. He's off in the mountains somewhere. So I love to do that, but I'm riding a little less. I'm a little more cautious now than I used to be, but, all these years it's been fun for me. Dirt bike on top, solo. I just have to get away by myself for all the traveling I do around the world and all the hotels and all the, flights that we take, flying everywhere. It's great to be alone. There's something to be said for solitude. Not forever, but, get away, think things over, make some wise decisions, hopefully, and just contemplate the past and design the future.
All right, here's a couple we'll go through. How do you know when to quit something and start something new? How do you know when you should turn it off and go do something new?
Well, one of the techniques of thinking that I learned, and I consider it to be one of the most important of all thinking techniques you can ever learn, is what I call zero-based thinking. And zero-based thinking is where you ask yourself this question: knowing what I now know, is there anything that I'm doing today that I wouldn't get into again today if I had to do it over? And you go through every part of your life and ask this question. Start with your relationships. Is there any relationship, business or personal, that knowing what I now know I wouldn't get into? Go to business. Is there any part of my business, any process, any activity that knowing what I now know I wouldn't get into? And then you look at your investments and your commitments of time and money and emotion and saying, is there anything that I'm doing that knowing what I now know I wouldn't start up again today? And if the answer is, no, I wouldn't, then the next question is, how do you get out of it and how fast? Because there's a basic rule in life is that things don't improve by themselves, they go from bad to worse. People don't change, they just become even more so. Situations don't get better by themselves. So therefore, you keep asking this question, and you keep using it as a framework, and you hold it up to life and say, is there anything in my life that, knowing what I now know, I wouldn't get into? And you can always tell if you have a zero-based thinking situation because it's your major source of stress. It causes you stress, distraction, irritation, anxiety, worry. It can even cause you psychosomatic illness and even more serious things. So one of the things you do on a go-forward basis, you keep clearing your life and saying, knowing what I now know, would I get into this again with my current information? If the answer is no, get out, and get out quickly. And that's been very helpful to me.
Any thoughts on that?
Well, it's been easy for me, you know, knowing when to start over when you run out of money, right? And there is none left. But Brian or someone along the line, it's been a long, long time ago, in my enterprises for all these years, I've learned to raise my zero. It used to be when I had no more money, you know, then that was it. Finally, I raised my zero to about 10,000 and said, when I get down to 10,000, I'm going to start making the decisions I used to make when I got to zero. And then I raised it to 50,000. And then one of the best was when I raised it finally to 100,000. When I'm down to 100,000, that means I'm out of money. You know, it's over. I've got to make now some serious decisions. Rather than the old days when I was totally out of money and made those decisions. That's one of the most unique things I learned in my enterprise career over all these years.
Very good. All right. What is the difference between self-esteem and confidence, and how do you build both? What's the difference between self-esteem and confidence, and how do you build both of those?
Well, I believe that self-esteem is the foundation of self-confidence. Is that if you have a very high sense of self-esteem, if you like and respect yourself, then the expression of that on the outside is that you will be confident. Not arrogant, not aggressive, but you'll be confident because you'll know that you can take whatever the world throws at you and you'll bounce back. You know, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. You know, if this isn't working, try something else. If you have a high enough level of self-esteem, I learned this from Dennis many years ago, is that it won't knock you down because you will not associate temporary setbacks and failures with a diminution of your self-esteem. You say, well, this is what happens. It's like boxers get hit, and football players get tackled. People who try stuff have temporary setbacks and disappointments. You just throw it off and keep on going. So if your self-esteem is strong enough, then you'll have the confidence to keep on going, which will ultimately mean that you'll succeed.
I say the greatest step toward success is self-confidence. And the greatest builder of self-confidence is self-esteem. And self-esteem, I think, comes from doing the daily things you know you should do, so that at the end of the day you can say, I did it. Whether it's an apple a day for your health, or the calls that you should have made, you did make, the people you should have seen, you did see, the work you should have done, you did do. This greatly raises self-esteem. Then sometimes self-esteem starts to soar when you make some very critical decisions. Decide to walk a new road, start a new direction, take on some new disciplines. In the mix of those decision-making processes, self-esteem really starts to grow. I asked the waitress at Denny's years ago when I was recruiting, have you found the opportunity that's going to take care of you and your family for the rest of your life? And she says, well, no. I said, well, that's one of the most important questions you'll ever be asked in all of your life. I said, would you mind if I asked you the second most important question you'll ever be asked in all of your life? She says, no, what is the second question? I said, the second question is, are you spending some time every week looking for that opportunity? And she says, well, no. I says, wow, two of the most important questions you'll ever be asked in all of your life. And your answer to both of these questions is no. How would you explain that to your family? No, I haven't found opportunity, and no, I'm not looking. Wow. Then I would say, would you mind if I gave you a gift? She says, what is the gift? I said, the gift is the gift of advice that I was given that changed my whole life. And that is, if you haven't found opportunity yet, you must spend some time every week looking for opportunity until you find it. Then I said, let me give you a promise. My promise is the day you decide to spend some time every week looking for opportunity until you find it, that day your self-esteem will go through the roof and you will never be the same again. Then back in those days when I was recruiting, I would say, by the way, here's my business card. And the day you decide to start looking, I'd love to show you what I have. And once you see it, you may never, ever have to look anymore.
I found that self-discipline in every single study turns out to be the most important quality for success. Dennis and I and Jim are always asked the same question. People come up to us and say, is there one key to success? What's the one key? What's the one key to success? And I used to get really irritated at that question because if there was one, we'd be out of business. And then I realized, yes, there is. Doggone it, there is one key to success. And it's very simply this. And I say this to my audiences. I say, here it is. Are you ready? Ready? Write it down. It's do what you resolve to do. That's it. Then you'll be a success. Do what you resolve to do. What is the road to hell paved with? Good intentions. So just do what you resolve to do, whether it's saving or eating properly or anything else. Okay, now you can all go home. You've had your money's worth. Say this about 5 after 9 in the morning, nobody leaves. But the point is this, is if you can discipline yourself to follow through on your promises to yourself, your self-esteem goes up. And one of the things that I learned is that persistence is self-discipline in action. Is persisting when you don't feel like it. You know, if you feel like it, you get no points. It's when you make yourself do it. Get up in the morning, and wonderful line from Jim many years ago, start a little earlier, work a little harder, stay a little later. One of the best success principles I ever heard in my life. If you can discipline yourself to get up when you don't feel like it, to work a little harder when you don't feel like it, to stay a little later when you don't feel like it. So when you don't feel like it and you persist, that you build your self-discipline, and the self-discipline is the foundation of self-confidence. When you know you can put it on yourself, you can make yourself do it, you become a totally different person. And so the three all work together. Self-esteem, self-confidence, and persistence each feed upon each other. And each time you get a chance to practice self-discipline, each time you get a chance to persist rather than quit, realize that this is a growing time. This is a time where you become a better and stronger person. And great men and women are men and women who have persisted and disciplined themselves in small things over and over again. As Jim sometimes says, and I said earlier, "O good and faithful servant, you've been master over small things, I will make you master over many." By becoming really disciplined and focused on the little things, you prepare yourself for the big things. And I think Dennis has said this. People say, well, when the big one comes along, then I'll really, really stick it in. I'll really discipline myself when the big opportunity comes. No, it's like when the big weight comes. I'm not going to lift up any little weights, but when that big one comes, boy, I'll lift up the big one. No, you just simply will not have what it takes when the big one comes.
Is there a thought that you repeatedly have throughout the day, sort of a mantra, so to speak, that you continually think to keep you on track, that is sort of the motto for your life? What's the thought that you have throughout your day that keeps you on track and moving forward? If there is one, yeah.
Well, I learned that, you know, just as you become what you think about, you become what you say to yourself. And I started saying this without realizing its cosmic implications, but it's just, I love my work. I love my family. When I'm with my family, I love my family. I sit there and I watch them and they laugh and they talk. And I think, I love this. And when I'm with you, I say, I love this. I love my work. I get up in the morning, I say, I love to do this. I love to be with these people. I love to be with people who are eager to learn. It's such a joy. And when I'm exercising, I could feel my body. Clinton and I were climbing Pico San Bernardino Peak last week. And of course, he runs like a mountain goat. And I go like a tortoise overloaded with bricks. And I'm saying, Jesus hurts me. I said, isn't this good? I love this. I love this. Now, that takes a little bit more convincing. But if you just talk to yourself, you can decide. You can decide, I really enjoy what I'm doing. I do this because I love it, because I want to. And your whole attitude, it's like turning up the dimmer switch in your mind, is different. And so you get up in the morning and say, I like myself. I love my work. I love my work. I love my work. And then what I found later is that all successful people love what they do. And so their work is a continual source of energy. They can hardly wait to get to it. They hate to leave it. Not to take more of your time, but I've always talked about what I call the clock test. You can tell where you're going in life by how you relate to the clock during the working day. If you look at the clock, you find that top people look at the clock to see how soon they can start and how much time they've got left to do their work. Weak people look at the clock to see how long they can put off starting and how soon they can quit. But if you look at successful people, they look at the clock and they race against the clock to see how much more stuff that they love to do, that they can do before their time is up. So their clock becomes a competitor. They're competing with the clock, whereas unsuccessful people are using the clock to find out when they can stop. So think about that. If you're in a job where you're watching the clock, it means you're in the wrong work for you. Because if you're in the right job, you lose track of time. If you're in the right relationship, you lose track of time. If you're doing what's right for you, you lose track of time.
We lost the McDonald's sponsorship yesterday. I think we just lost the Teamsters sponsorship too. So we'll move forward. This is more of a reflective question. When you get to the end of your life and you're on your deathbed, what do you want to be your reflection? What do you want to be the thoughts that you hold fondly in your mind and your heart?
Gosh, that's a tough one. I don't know. I've lived such an extraordinary life. I'm sure that when the end finally comes, I'll reflect on that incredible possibility to live an extraordinary life. I had all of you memorize that little piece, right? From testimonials and personal experience, we have enough information to conclude that it's possible to design and live an extraordinary life. Those are good thoughts to keep forever, for the rest of your life.
Well, I gave a lot of thought to this. I was in Australia some years ago, and I had to be there for about 3 days, and I went for a walk on the Gold Coast. The beach on the Gold Coast goes for several hundred miles. It's like Miami Beach for several hundred miles. It's the most amazing beach. I went walking on this beach, and I was thinking about the same question. And the answer that came to me was that I would want, after I had passed away, for people who met my children, who didn't even know me, when my name came up, they would say, oh, I knew that guy. He was a good man. He was a good man. He was a really good man. I would like people to speak of me in a complimentary way to my children all their lives, so that when they heard people speak about me, they could be proud that I was their father. And so I sort of set that as my standard, to never say or do anything that would...
Okay, I just looked at my watch, not so we can get out of here, but we have to get out of here. So we got another session coming up. So we got one last question. What kinds of businesses do you think will be successful going forward? As you look in the future of business, what kind of businesses do you think are going to be successful?
In my seminars now, I'm saying these opening years of the 21st century, number one, unprecedented opportunity. Every business, every country, every industry that you can possibly imagine. This is the opening years of what we call the 7th millennium. We've had 6 so far, and some say this 7th millennium is going to be unusual in the history of mankind, and I think that's true. Unusual opportunity in everything you can possibly imagine. But the next key is with keen competition. That's the key. Unusual opportunity for everybody, but with keen competition. A job becomes available in Anaheim. Question, does it go to China or does it stay in Anaheim? And the key is easily, it stays in Anaheim if someone is better qualified. So the whole key is to keep multiplying your own qualifications for unprecedented opportunity, mixed with the usual challenges. But that's what our seminar talk is all about, from the 3 of us and the others, is that you can be prepared not only for the challenges but for the opportunity. And that's what we're all about.
Well, I agree 100% with Jim. I would say this, and I remember Albert Einstein was asked, what is the purpose of human life? And his answer was, we are here to serve others. He said, what other purpose could there be? And so when you talk about boundless opportunities, the number of opportunities are expanding like a fusion reaction. but they're all opportunities to serve other people. And so our primary goal in life has to be to find the place where we can serve other people the very best by giving them the things they need to improve their lives and work, and by becoming very, very good at doing it and do it better than anybody else. And it leads back to what we talked about before. Do something that you love. Do something that you're talented at. Donna, is Donna here? Donna said this morning that really wonderful remark. The place where you should be is the place where you're naturally good without any training. You're just naturally good in that area. But Michael Jordan once said that everybody has talent, but ability takes hard work. Everybody has the raw talent in various areas, but ability takes hard work. So our whole focus to be successful in the 21st century is not us. Rick Warren's wonderful book, The Purpose-Driven Life, he says this wonderful line. He said, remember, it's not about you. Everybody thinks it's about me. That's not about you. It's about, in his case, it's about God. But in the economy, it's about other people. So you say, how can I best serve other people? By helping them in some way, using my unique skills and abilities in an area I love to do and get better and better in that area. And if you can do that, there'll be no offshoring of your job, because you make yourself, first of all, valuable, then indispensable. You become what J. Abraham says, make yourself he calls it his strategy of preeminence. In other words, be the preeminent, the only person who can do what you do, because you do it so well for the people that you serve. So keep focused on that, and there will be no limit to opportunities. No limit to opportunities. Yeah.
Let's thank Jim and Brian for being here with us.